cliffhanger, you've got to then play a little game, a casual game, and then the story can move on. And that's all now deliverable through IP. So that's coming along. And then the third thing, which I think is really exciting for storytelling, is that the devices are starting to talk to each other. So for the first time, rather than being lots of constrained by operating systems, more and more stuff is being made on the cloud, and actually being able to start a story on TV, put it in your pocket, carry on that story when you're on the underground or the tube, being able to then dock it when you're at home or listen to an audio track when you're in the car, suddenly becomes achievable. And so from our perspective, how you do all of this is still up for grabs, but it could be a really exciting time for storytelling. So that's me. Have you got any questions or just points? I think. If you want the microphone handed round.
Only one. Just in terms of, you mentioned before that you use flash technology. How have you then, with the rise of the iPad and the Apple development and not having flash capable or choosing not to have it capable, how have you overcome that hurdle?
So the BBC, until recently, was not doing anything on iPads. That was more of a regulatory issue, so we're funded out of the licence fee, and that had been referred to the BBC Trust, our regulatory body. There's now a lot of thought around how do you make your assets reversionable. So going right back to source assets, so not thinking that it's a Flash movie, but Flash helps you render a bunch of assets which might be HTML assets, HTML5 or something like that. I don't think we're there yet. There's a lot of problems with legacy to transfer games, and actually children's department was one of the highest uses of Flash, because it's most of what we did was animated and game-like. But I think the interesting bit is where people start thinking of their pipeline. I work a lot with the animation company, the team who are making the long-form animation, and we now try to get right in at the beginning of that pipeline to say, let's isolate all of those. And then I get quite rude that their cartoon is only as good as their maquettes and their walk cycles, and actually it's all just data, and which they don't like to hear. Because most TV people still work with the finished package, driving all of the decisions they make up front. And we're just trying to change that, saying it's actually just character creation, and then know what way we want to spit it out.
How do you deal with the budgeting for different outcomes, for different online, mobile, / everything?
So the BBC, I think, was quite early into this space, and we have ring-fence budgets for online. It's not huge. It was typically around, I think, it was around 5% of what we might spend on a show. Not for every show, so we'd have to pick and choose. But it was by getting in with the productions that we were able to be really canny. Because a lot of the things that we did, we'd shoot on the same set. And again, that was more about changing the culture of the personnel, rather than actually a sort of a financial issue. I worked in the factual department, quite a lot of those examples were in the factual department, and we tried different models, and I couldn't say they were the right model. Sometimes we gave the budget to the TV people and gave them a list of requirements to deliver. The problem with that is the pressure of being on the set, we were the bottom of their list, or they'd spend the money and forget to get the assets. I think where we were most successful was where we were able to bring on young producers who sort of work through the interactive team, and then we'd give them a foot up to be a sort of a second in command on a production.
Yeah, as far as I understand, most of these are then free on internet. Or do you sell any licenses, or is any of these things you're showing us here sort of what people are paying for?
Because of the BBC, everything we release in the UK is free. Because it's a license fee, and the principle is that you've already paid for it. We where some of those shows have been sold onto other territories, we have sold on the interactive components to the broadcasters. Most broadcasters aren't monetizing it directly. However, when you look at the sort of preschool space, all the things that we were doing online, if you look at the app stores now, there are lots of paid-for applications. And it's a really, I think it's a really interesting growth market, because what the App Store has done has sort of changed the model. It's not, we all grown up believing content is free, but what applications have done is it's about you're paying for convenience and packaging and I think that and service in a lot of cases, and that seems to be why people are prepared to pay for it as long as the price point's right. But the BBC isn't. We don't charge for those. But children's apps, there are some which are doing really well as paid for apps.
I was wondering, at the moment TV is more of a lean back medium, so people are sitting in their couch and just watching and consuming, whereas the PC is lean forward and you proactive, like play a game on BBC website or whatever. At least in Germany, interactive TV hasn't really kicked off, and I don't think it has been used a lot or has been a big success at all. So with IP TV coming up, what do you think? Do you think that's really going to be used a lot? Because still people are sitting in their couches, they're leaning back.
Okay, so I make a distinction between TV as a piece of furniture and TV as being that old medium that we're used to. So TV is a piece of furniture, not true anymore. No, most go into a household where their kids, they're used to having their games console, an interactive sit-forward experience on that piece of furniture. We're used to it. So being able to now get that from not just because you bought a console game and you put it in your console, but being able to get your weather or whatever, that will change. And I think a lot of this is about behaviour change. I don't think that all television will become lean forward, but I do think actually quite a bit of television is lean forward. So if you watch a quiz show, you're not sitting forward doing that, but you are mentally trying to get to the question before those contestants. So one of the areas I'm looking at right now is quiz shows. Because if I could, rather than shout at the television, I can actually log it, know, and also my friends are in another house doing it, and I can know that I'm doing better than them, or then maybe post it to Facebook. There's no reason why you can't now connect all of that together.
Yeah. So you think the difference between, let's say, interactive TV and IPTV is the opportunity to connect with other people that are using the same application?
I think it's better that the interactive TV was very limited by the technology. It wasn't really interactive. It wasn't a proper on-demand platform. It was all pretend on-demand. It gave the illusion of being on-demand. So when you have internet, you can pull in anything. And that for some of it, it's about storytelling. For some of it, it might be is about making the mainstream more personal. So an example I use is if you're watching a program about property prices, halfway through that show, without you knowing, there could be a little feature about property prices in your area, because you've already said that you want the latest information in my area. So it could be blended into your experience. So still sit back, and the box is doing the work for you. No more?
I have a question on content creation. If a narrative is interactive, does you give the audiences options on the continuity of a story? Do you ever reach a point when the many versions become unmanageable?
So there's lots of different theory about interactive narratives. There are branching narratives where it just branches out and out and out. There are converging narratives where you branch and you pull back to the main storyline. In terms of production, I think it's really how big a budget you've got. Of course, you can create lots and lots and lots of permutations, but often what I've found is actually you don't, people, it's more important that their emotional drive to be in control or to make a choice is satisfied rather than to know that I'm taking route 1 out of 20,436. So it's not a numbers game in that respect. So as long as you emotionally come out of it feeling that you were empowered and your choice was enacted upon, it doesn't really matter. So if of a choice about follow the girl or the boy, that's a binary choice. What they then do might actually then converge back in the place that you would have gone to either route. But your journey, gaming, they talk about flow. The flow, as in the emotions that you conjure up as the recipient of that story, that's what's really important about it. Games are also quite interesting because they give this illusion of being free open worlds, but often they're quite linear in story. But what they do is they take you from A to B. They then let you run around B for half an hour until you've shot everything or collected everything, and only when you have, you then go from B to C. But that's leveling up. It's sort of that's the story often imposed on through games is a sense of that you've got free realm. You haven't. You're locked in this area. And again, there's lots of theory about this. Different people have different approaches, but for me, I think it's about making sure you really get into the head of your user and make sure you satisfy their emotional, the requirements. How will they feel at that moment? Have you satisfied that? That's it? Any more? Bang on time.